This is the Teaching Bites podcast, episode number 9.
Welcome to the Teaching Bites podcast, our unprofessional development resource to take your teaching to the next level. Here are your hosts, Fred and Sharon Jaravada.
And welcome back, everyone. Welcome to our show where we share bite-sized ideas, tips, and tricks so you can make them your own. Whether you're a brand new teacher or a veteran teacher that needs an extra spark, we're all here to learn from each other so you can take your teaching to the next level. We're your host. She's Sharon.
And he's Fred.
How you doing, Sharon?
Not bad. How you doing?
Tired. It's a Monday. We're just tired. We have 2 sick kids again, and that's why we couldn't get this show out the other day.
Yeah, so we're doing this on a weekday. Kind of weird, but, we want to do this for you.
Yeah, and it's for us, really,
So
it helps us learn kind of our reflection and all that. All right, Chan, so give us some factoids about this number 9.
All right, so when I thought of 9, I thought of love potion number 9. Do you believe in that?
Can you explain that? What is love potion number 9? I've heard it over the years. I've always heard it.
I don't know. Maybe that's what you gave me in my drink when I met you.
Oh, that's controversial.
I was kidding.
No, that's...
But anyway, I know there's a song, and it's kind of cool. It's like a 50s song. I like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Nothing much about that. But the other thing I found on, when you buy produce... There's little stickers on your produce, and it usually says
like on the
where
apple
it's from,
or on the banana,
the orange, and if you ever buy organic, the 5-digit produce number begins with a 9 in the front. So that's something good to note.
That's interesting. So you're saying number 9 is in the code?
Yeah, then you know it's organic.
In the front, the first number.
Mm-hmm. And actually, my students and I were studying that. We're figuring out where our food's from. So we looked at labels and had them bring labels to school to compare and figure out, the cost benefit of getting produce from far away versus local. So
pretty cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that it for you?
Yep.
I have one.
Yep.
Number 9. All right. Why is the number 10 afraid of number 7?
Because 7, 8, 9.
Yeah. And number 6 is actually afraid of also number 8. No, number 9. So, because 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, true.
Very cool. No.
All right. So what's this episode today? Today's a little different, right, Fred?
Yep. And we're doing things in bits and pieces.
Right. So this episode is not our normal one where we have like a special singular topic which we delve into deeply. This one's called Bits and Pieces, Boats, Timeout, and Being Less Helpful. So it's a variety of what's going on in our personal lives to our professional lives all rolled into one.
Yeah, in the past week or so, right?
Mm-hmm.
The happenings in our schools, right?
Right. So one of the most anticipated, at least for us, TV shows debuted last week, fresh off the boat. It's based on Eddie Wong's memoir I read a year or two ago, and it's amazing.
All right, so let's back up. What is fresh off the boat? It happens on the week. Which day?
Wednesdays.
On ABC.
Right.
Okay, so what's it about?
It's about Eddie had a memoir about growing up.
Who is this Eddie?
He's a TED fellow. He has a restaurant in New York, but he wrote his memoir about his life growing up with an immigrant family that moved from Washington, D.C. to Florida.
And also, important fact is that he's Anthony Bourdain. A lot of people know who he is. He is also one of a big fan of Eddie Huang. I guess he has a bao house that sells bao in New York City.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So he sold the rights to his book to the show, and he's producing it. And it's really nice to see an Asian American cast on TV.
Right, a full Asian American cast, right? So.
Right. I think the last one was All American Girl with Margaret Cho.
Mm-hmm.
That I forgot when that came out, but it didn't last very long. So
right, and it's not a martial arts TV show. It's not one of those. It's not the goofy Asian guy on the side. It's actually about a family growing up Asian in America. The kids were born here, just like us. I relate to this myself because I was born here, but I grew up with my Asian parents, my Filipino parents. Just like
same
you,
here, and I was born here too, and I grew up with two Chinese parents. So one of the things we, of course, talking about the show is exciting, but we also want to relate teachable moments to the stereotypes you see in the show. And so, one of the parts of the pilot, Eddie brings his Chinese noodles to school, and all the kids at the table are like, "Ew, what's that? That smells so gross," So what happened was all the kids kind of, ousted him from the table. He had to go sit on his own. And then he eventually wanted his mom to get him Lunchables to fit in, And then one day at lunch, he was trying to warm up his food. And this African-American kid got mad at him because he cut in line, supposedly. And then this whole fiasco about going to the principal's office and getting in trouble. And we noticed that Eddie's parents were called into the office. Mm-hmm. Now we don't know what else happened in the story, the show, but we assumed that the other parents probably didn't get called in. So we were thinking there's something going on there, and you had that idea actually about what was the issue.
The issue, you mean the part where, because it's implied that Eddie, his character, hit the other student in retaliation for insulting him, and Eddie got in trouble because he did the physical act. But when he was called into the principal's office, and they called his parents into the principal's office, but the other student involved and their parents were not invited also.
Right, and then the parents were like, Where's their parents? Did they get called? How come we're only the ones in the office? How come we're the ones being spoken to? So what's that look like for you as a teacher? How can you address that?
Right. We always have to see the other side also. I mean, from a parent's side, they always want to protect their child also, and they want to make sure they are getting equal and fair points of view, right? Perspective on things. Mm-hmm. They want to get their voices heard and making sure their child's voice is heard through the school administration.
Right, and like I said, it's a TV show. We're not sure if that did occur, but if I was an administrator, I would talk to each kid alone, see what, and then figure out the next steps from there, and then called the parents in.
Now, my question is now, as a teacher now, what would you do in that situation? What would you do as a teacher, not as administration? Mm-hmm. What would you do? How would you approach that? You saw Eddie retaliated to the other student.
Well, usually, usually what I do, if I didn't see the incident, kids usually like to say what the other kid did to me. And
we always see the last act also as a teacher.
Yeah. So I try to, I get the story from each child first. If I have time, if I'm on recess yard duty, I do that. And I really talk about, what did you do? Did you do anything to upset this person or do anything to hurt this person's feelings or physically hurt them? Then I go talk to other kid. Then I think in my head and compare stories. And then I bring them together to iron it out. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they need to calm down a little bit.
You give them time.
Right.
That's important, yes.
But if I don't have time, I'm teaching. Then I say, I need one story from you two. You guys talk respectfully together. You have 10 minutes. And, we'll see how it works. And if I can't figure it out then we have to figure out another time.
Right, but
you can't let it go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the first, or that was actually 2 episodes they released last week, and it's pretty funny. Yeah, I think you guys will enjoy it. Check it out. It's called Fresh Off the Boat. It offers a lot of different perspectives, and it makes us aware, the audience aware of a different, being aware of a different perspective on different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
So very cool. All right, moving forward, it's a good segue where another perspective that's also challenging for us in the school system, and probably in society in general in America, is being distracted. It seems that everyone has some kind of digital device, and we are constantly walking around or sitting down looking at some kind of device. We're looking down. So that's a phenomenon happening, and it's kind of it is concerning. Now, my school, we are now happening this week on Thursday, starting Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We are starting this thing up called the Tech Timeout, and it's our way of trying to raise awareness of all the digital distractions, and we're asking. This is an opt-in voluntary event
program
mm-hmm. where we're asking parents, teachers, and the students to all get rid of the distracting devices for a 72-hour period. So it's interesting. It's happening Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So it's going through the weekend.
The weekend, wow.
Right. So and let me back up a little bit. This is for middle school, from 5th grade, 6, 7, 8, and through the high school as well. And the thing is, we want to try to have a better understanding of all our dependence on technology. We are a one-to-one school, but now we're going to go ahead and turn our devices off. So one of the hopes is so that we can reflect, the families and the teachers, we can all reflect and recognize how all these devices can get in the way of having real relationships and conversations and interacting with real people,
playing board games,
and have, playing in the park and so on. Like the things that we used to do 15 years ago.
So,
right?
I have a question. So, since your kids do homework on computers and iPads,
mm-hmm.
so how does that look for homework time? Because of it.
So luckily, this is coinciding with our winter break in February next week. But since it's a Thursday, and I teach a digital citizenship class and media literacy class, Thursday we're going to do something different. We're not going to use any digital device. We're going to go and play some board games. I'm going to try to find some games that can help us learn about respect of one another. The teachers are encouraged to assign homework in the traditional way.
Paper, pencil.
Writing it up on the whiteboard and having the students write it down on a piece of paper, on a notebook.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these kids already have notebooks, and so they use paper and pencil still, which I think it's still great.
Yeah.
We are a one-to-one iPad program, but we also encourage the paper pencil, tools also.
Right.
So those are technology. That's still technology
mm-hmm.
that still work and still viable.
So I have a question too about reflecting. Is there some way that are you guys going to send out like a survey, or is it there's some kind of thing they're going to fill out or have a discussion?
Yeah, so there has been discussion already been happening with the whole community. It's on all website. It's actually been written up also on big national educational websites, and I'll put the link on there in the show notes on that. But yeah, it's the critical part here is having time to reflect, right? And we talk about it with the students. I had a discussion beforehand last week with my students and talking about what it is and how it's important to disconnect with the digital world for a little bit so we can see and start noticing how we act, how they act, and how they feel about technology. And then they are sent their email later on after the challenge is done. They will be sent an email that has the link. It goes to a Google form and have the students reflect on there. So it gets recorded, and it's a way for the students to share their thoughts. If they like it, they don't like it, they do it again, and so on. Some teachers, I believe, are also going to have some kind of video reflection. So that'll be cool also.
Wow, that seems really important.
It is. I mean, honestly, for myself, I'm going to go ahead and participate also. Again, you can volunteer to opt in. So I'm going to get off Facebook. I am going to get off Twitter. I am going to start not checking my email for those 3 days. Put down my phone. I'm going to have my phone still. It's going to be on still, just for emergencies.
Right.
But I'm
Practical
really
purposes.
going to try to not have it on me with easy reach. I'm going to shut down my laptop. TV, I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to watch some TV, but not much. But I think if I do a little bit, like my cell phone, I think it's the biggest one, and then my laptop, my iPad next. But yeah, I think my cell phone. I think that's the main technology I'm gonna have to turn off for a bit.
Yeah, it's hard.
It is. It's hard, but you know what?
Good.
I'm gonna try it, and if I break it, I break it. But it's gonna force me to recognize why did I break it.
I mean, I think that reminds me too of our own kids. You know, we have a limit for them for 15 minutes on screen time. But we don't have it ourselves. We still have to model that too.
We have to model it, and it's nice to disconnect. I can't remember the last time, 15 years ago. I don't remember. It's far away. It's a long time, 15 years, even 10 years ago before the iPhone came out. iPhone came out in 2007
what did you do?
or so. I had the old dumb phone, the flip phones. I had that. It was really hard to check email. It was possible, but it was so clunky. And I just checked it on my laptop, and back then it was dial-up, so it was kind of a pain to get on.
Right.
So it's nice to go back and see how that experience will be.
I mean, I think it's also good. I see people, I was like observing someone. I went out yesterday. Remember, you watch the kids. I was doing work. I was watching this couple eating lunch, and then one of them is just on their phone, and the one's just eating away. And they're not really in the moment with each other. Another example is the rule in China, how you can't like look at your phone and walk on the sidewalk.
I didn't
you
know
hear about that one?
No, I did not.
Something like that, and the article you posted a long time ago on our blog about looking up. It reminds me of that too.
Right, it's important. I think it's called Tech Timeout. We are our school is participating with a company called Tech Timeout, their program. So we partnered with them, called it Tech Timeout, and we'll have that on the show notes as well. But it's also better, I don't know, one way to call it also is call it like look up. You know what I mean? Not looking down, and start looking up. Be aware of, what's around you and engage with the things around you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
People,
things, read a book, a real book. Although that's going to be hard because I've been reading books on my Kindle, and what's great on my Kindle or on my iPad is that I can increase the font. And my age, I've noticed that, regular books, it's getting harder to read. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to wear my glasses and really, really concentrate and read.
But then on an iPad, you could also go online to do something else too. See?
Yeah.
At least your Kindle is dedicated.
Right. But you know what? There are distraction-free apps out there. You can lock it per se you're stuck in one app.
Mm.
You do certain key button strokes and passwords and all that. But
So that's good for our kids.
yeah, it can.
Maybe we can we do that for them?
For our students?
Our own children.
Oh, yeah, definitely we could do that.
Okay.
Definitely.
We should probably do that.
Yeah, the kids are jumping around app to app to app, which is not.
I
good,
know.
so.
Okay, so being less helpful, that sounds kind of weird, but I know you talked about that and
Being less helpful. So I talked about that, and I've been following this amazing teacher. He's spoken at a TED Talk X. He's also spoken at last year's Q, the computer user educators.
something like that.
Something like that. It happens in Palm Springs. It's huge, and he is an amazing teacher. He has a great blog that he shares all his thoughts on how to be less helpful and how to perplex his students. Quickly, let me just go ahead and talk about what what being less helpful is. Say you have a student, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he constantly comes up to you and asking you, how do you do this? How do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do this? How do you do that? The gist of being less helpful is to back up. As a teacher, you back up a little bit and not jumping in to help your student immediately. Let the student figure it out. Let the student try to figure out this math problem per se. Don't tell what the formula would be, what the formula is, the correct formula. Let the student naturally, organically try to figure out this math problem. Does this math problem, do we need the length? Do we need the width? We want to encourage the students to figure out themselves organically.
Yeah.
Right? That's one of his things, and definitely we'll have the show notes, the links on the show notes about there, and I'll put up a TED Talk of his that he explains it.
And what's his name?
Thing. It's Dan Meyer, and he again he's an amazing teacher. He also has another thing called Perplex Our Students, and Perplex Our Students is where we, as educators, as teachers, where we have to, how do we capture and how do we share perplexing moments that can get our students thinking? It could be everyday things, and it can pose a question, like maybe a data map, cover up the certain parts of the data graph.
The labeling and all the
you cover
captions.
them up, certain things, and then you let the students look at it and try to figure out what's happening. So you're perplexing them. Let them coming up with the questions, relevant questions for that particular map.
And you teach them how to ask good questions too.
Right. You have to train
questions.
them. Yeah, and you have to train them as a teacher. You need to train them beforehand what to look for, how to find relationships, like in a data graph, how to look for all that. But it's also a good way to cover up once in a while. Cover up the numbers or the labels.
Yeah, and actually his website is 101qs.com, 101 questions, and that's a really great site to go to.
It's where a lot of teachers or a lot of people, they share images around the world.
And,
it's just
and
not
videos.
Dan Meyer. It's just not just Dan Meyer, but
Right.
lots of people. And I personally,
You did too.
I submitted a picture, and it was ranked for a while in the top 10. It was our school was in a very steep hill in San Francisco, and a truck was stuck at the peak of the hill going down, even though there was a big giant sign that says that no trucks allowed. But this truck went down the hill and got stuck, and the wheels aren't touching the ground anymore. So I put that up, and it ranked in that site for a little while.
And then actually my kids and I were on it, and we found it. We're like, wow, like this is my husband. They're like, wow,
Fred Jarvada.
that's so cool.
Mr. Jarvada, Mr. J, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about the whole Dan Meyer thing, being less
I
helpful.
think it's
how
amazing.
how do you see it, or how do you see it works in your third grade class?
Well, what I do is sometimes I'll change up my morning routine rather than like doing a daily language activity where they have to correct grammar and spelling and all that and writing. I just put up one of the pictures from the website, and they know to ask a good question, and actually have them share as well too. And we write on the board, or we just orally say it, and we talk about what else could it be, and the fact that they're sharing it out is a learning moment too for them. And sometimes I'll take a break, brain break, and do that kind of thing.
Show them pictures. It's important, like real world pictures. Also is great.
Yeah, and actually that gives me an
Videos.
idea. Maybe my kids can even find pictures for each other to do from books
I think that's one of the
or something.
ultimate things that they can do. A lot of people are carrying phones that have cameras on there. Students, even as young as third grades, I know they have, some of them have cameras also. And I think that's a great way for them, like assign it this weekend, and say, hey, find a great math problem that you can try to perplex your fellow classmates. Right?
We could put it on Google Classroom or something.
Yeah, you can put it on your Google
Yeah.
Classroom. You can put it on your Google Drive. You can or they can email it to you, and you can put it there, and then have all the kids access to that. So,
Or even like old school way, get the picture printed on a big poster and the kids just write on it and look
Or-
at each other's.
or just print it out on a regular copier.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of being less helpful, I have 2 ideas that I use in my class. One, so, when I think about being less helpful, I think about student-centered learning. Instead of the teacher deciding everything, is the kids having choice. And one of my favorite ways I do this is with usually with like a math open response or constructed response problem, one of the big word problems they have to do. It would be like, for example, I give a math test or something, and one of the problems is a really complex word problem, and they do it by themselves, right? So then the next day for the first do now, they get a second stab at it. So they see it again. So they get to do it again for about, however much time. And after that, I put them in differentiated groupings, and each student brings their answers to the group. And then I tell each group, you need to, this is a thing I have to train a lot. I need one student at a time. You need to share what you got, right? And the rest of the kids need to listen with an open mind. And that's something that you have to train them, because kids usually say, my way is the right way, and I'm not going to listen to other kids' way. And I really have to train them saying, someone else might have the right answer. You need to put that ego behind you and just listen.
Right.
And so that's something for third graders to do, is really kind of more difficult in the beginning of the year, but they get
Go
better.
For third graders. Yeah, that's really difficult.
Yeah, but they're really good at it. And they all share, and then they're supposed to come up with one answer. That's all I say. And they come share it with the class. So I have, 4 groups coming up, one at a time. And every single time I've done this, I've never told the kids the answer, because they come up with it. And they think, they also refer back to, this person said this, so I also agree with that. So that's something that's really precious to me,
Good. That's very cool.
So that's one very specific way. The other way, giving student choice. Book reports, they read a book, they fill out a form, but they can also choose how they want to show their project, either, comic strip or diorama or dressing up. So giving them a choice to show their talent and figure out what mode works best for them,
Yes. Visual or some kind of tactile.
Kinesthetic. Right. So and they feel like they own it.
Exactly. They do own it.
But you talk to them about the choices, though. I always say don't just choose one that's super easy for you.
Yeah.
Choose one that challenges you or something that you're good at.
Right.
So, you have to really always model that and talk about that with them. And then they'll feel so empowered to pick that one that can make them shine. So it's just so fun to see them when they present.
Right.
Their
You should
projects.
capture that if you can. The camera, capture that.
Yeah.
See when their eyes light up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the learning moment. That's the aha moment. That's the thing you want to catch, right?
Right.
So you capture that perplexity, the answers.
All right. So student-centered learning, another topic we talked about in episode 6, burnt out and teacher burnout. We talked about trying new things, going with teachable moments. And actually one thing I did this week was pretty on the fly, but amazing in itself. So we've been learning about shapes and quadrilaterals, rhombuses, and angles and things like that, right? In math. And one of the rhombus, or is it rhombi?
I don't know. Like Priuses and Prii.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Right. So, and one of the suggestions in lesson plan said to read this book called The Greedy Triangle by Marilyn Burns. And everyone knows Marilyn Burns. Mm-hmm. A great math teacher. And she has a lot of great books out there. But this is a picture book that I never knew about. And so it's about this triangle that keeps wanting to change its shape. It's not happy with being a 3-sided shape. It's always bored of holding up buildings. It's bored of being the X's and bridges, etc., right? So he goes to the shape shifter. That reminds me of my favorite TV show, Shapeshifter.
Oh, the Lost people?
Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot the show.
Lost. Well, you lost there, Sharon.
I am lost there.
Lost your train of thought.
The Fringe.
Oh, that one.
Fringe. It's over.
The other J.J.
Shapeshifters. But anyway.
Fringe. Yep.
Back on track. Too. Sorry, I get distracted. So the shapeshifter says, okay, you can change into a square now. So as another side. Now he's like, oh, I could be a box, like hold up roofs on houses, etc., right? Then eventually he keeps going to change into a pentagon, etc. And then he gets to the last shape, and he's so unbalanced because he has so many sides. He rolls down a hill, gets hurt.
Becomes a circle.
Because he's not a circle, not yet.
Oh, not
he's almost pretty much a circle. Right. So I said, you guys, I told my kids, okay, I'm stopping right now. What can we do to find out if this is true? If the shape is 10-sided, like a decagon, would it really roll down a hill faster than a 3-sided shape, like a triangle?
Yeah.
Would it really? No, really, would it?
Right. You don't know.
We don't
it's
know.
All theory, right? It's all theory.
So we decided, and these shapes are all 2-dimensional in the storybook.
Right.
So we decided we're going to do an experiment. Long story short, we decided to use prisms, like triangular prism, etc. And I talked about variables, and we talked about, the scientific method and creating hypotheses. So now we're almost going to do the experiment. But we have all the data, record sheets ready. So that was super exciting. The kids were like, can't wait. But then, of course, it rained. So we had to wait. Hopefully tomorrow
right.
it'll work. But that was my teachable moment.
Very, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what? I forgot. Going back to the beginning, and we talked about the fresh off the boat thing.
Yeah.
Can you share with our listener about what fresh off the boat means, FOB, and how that works in the Asian community?
Yeah, actually, I was going to address that. So fresh off the boat means, immigrants that have come from another country. Usually, people say FOB because it's FOB, and it can be looked at as derogatory.
A lot of times, actually,
right?
A lot of times.
But with us, it's more of like a joke.
Among the Asian community, among us, it is a joke. Yes,
right. So,
but at the same time, I grew up. There's a weird phenomena happening where the American-born Asians have discriminated against Asians born in
home country.
The home country.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm Filipino American, and my parents immigrated here, and I was born here. And I noticed that my generation of friends who were born here, there was some kind of divide happening in the middle school and high school, even up to the college years. There's a division, an invisible line between us and the Filipinos who immigrated here the same age as us. We call them FOBs, and that's unfortunate. That's a weird thing happening. I like to think it's lessening now, but it was a real thing, and I think it's still there. But again, I really hope it's lessening. I haven't really looked into it for a while, but yeah. So there's some kind of fob can be a derogatory thing.
Yeah, and actually, that's even reading on reviews about the show, people are saying, oh, it's not appropriate and things like that. To be called fresh off the boat. At the same time, I relate to you about growing up. I grew up in a suburban neighborhood where there are not as many Chinese Americans. So I was called names,
right?
And the kids weren't really understanding. So I was going to ask you about, you grew up in an urban place. Mm-hmm. Were people accepting of you?
It's accepting. Now, when I grew up in the city, San Francisco, definitely we're a hodgepodge. We're a melting pot. With Latinos, African Americans, Asians, the Irish side, and the Italians, and we all grew up together. We gravitated, and our certain groups, but we did interact with each other. Of course, there it's just natural to gravitate to people who are very similar to you, same kinds of interest. I mean, there are Asian kids I didn't hang out with because I didn't like robots, like Robotech. I love Robotech. I grew up like that stuff, so I gravitated to the people who happen to be Asians. They love Robotech also. But it's just an interesting thing in San Francisco. You see different little pockets. Even our neighborhoods, there's Chinatown, there's Sunset, there's the Ingleside, there's Mission, and all those are historically, the Mission historically is Latinos. Sunset are usually the Irish Americans. Now it's and Richmond's Asian Americans. The Ingleside and Ocean View neighborhood, African Americans. So yeah, there are pockets, but we all, pretty much got along and are getting along, I think. Mm-hmm. I think right now we're just, there's a struggle now in San Francisco today. It's more of the economic thing. So so fob, it can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing. It's also been taken away. We used to call our school keys fobs. Yeah. But it's no longer called fobs. We'll call it school badges. You badge in and so on. So yeah, I see that, how you're taking away that word.
It's good they're sensitive to that.
Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think it's important for our listeners to understand that we're not endorsing the name, but we understand the two sides of it. Right. And and I think the producers and Andy Huang, they understand that too, and they're just trying to lessen the fresh off the boat. And anyway, my parents flew into America, so they didn't come in a boat. Mine too.
So I don't know what people are talking about.
The refugees.
Mine ship containers and all that. Oh, all right.
All right. So a couple things to take away for you guys. So just to recap. So, just to use TV shows to remind you to use teachable moments. And if you can show clips if appropriate. Try to think about how you can institute a tech timeout. You may not have what Fred has in his school, but you could do it in your own way at school or at home, and just understand and reflect on what happened.
We'll share all those links with you guys to check it out. So.
And then little by little, trying to start being the coach on the side rather than the sage on the stage, being more of the, guiding teacher than the one always in the front.
Right. And being a little bit less helpful, let the kids figure things out a little bit.
Yeah. And sometimes, it's so funny when after all this modeling and the training, sometimes I feel like my class is on autopilot. Like, am I supposed to even be here? Because they just all know what to do. I mean, not all the time, but generally it's so nice to see all work and clockwork.
Right. And you're just the facilitator of this whole thing. That's the whole thing. Yeah. I think that's a great model to follow, or, to aspire to be the facilitator. And you see the perplexing of the students, and you see the questions of the students, and if they all have quite the same kind of questions, then you jump in and you show them, or you talk about it with them.
All right, so thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you guys.
Please subscribe to our show and leave an honest rating and comment for feedback.
Review, please.
It'll help us make our show better and allows us to show our show to be discovered by educators just like you.
Like you. So check out our website, teachingbytes.com. Subscribe to it. Like us at our Facebook page. Just Google us, Facebook, search us, Teaching Bites. And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Teaching Bites podcast at www.teachingbites.com.